Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you may be. Welcome back to the Pitch Perfect podcast. My name is Kiki. Of course, I'm here with Elaine, and this week we have a special guest. Excuse me. Today we have Carolina. She is a multiple time cosplay winner, and she is a close personal friend of mine for a very long time. Carolina, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Carolina Alvarado, legal name, and I am a cosplayer. I have been a FAB TCG cosplayer for going on, I think, about 3 years now, almost 3 years this next year. Um, and I play FAB TCG. I am probably one of the longest running cosplayers in this community, which is kind of weird to say because I feel old. But yeah, that's me.
Wonderful. It's really great to have you on. I'm very excited to have you on. We're both very excited to have you on. You've been such a massive presence in our space for a very long time, so it's kind of great to have this kind of conversation with you. Leading on to that, we're kind of skipping over our usual points, because we're doing something a bit different today. We're just going to be having just a kind of open discussion going on about a very important topic to us, and I'm sure to many of our listeners. So, how do we really kick this off? We're just gonna talk about being a woman in the trading card game space. Um, yeah, let's get into it. How do we do this? Let's start. Let's just start talking about experiences, right? Like, it's obviously,
It's heavy.
yeah.
It's heavy. It's a heavy
Yeah.
topic. So like I feel like it's gonna be really awkward to just like jump on into it. But Elaine and I have kind of been in the space around the exact same amount of
Mhm.
time. So I feel like both of us have a lot of different experiences, good and bad. Um, Personally, I feel like the conversation in especially the game that we play in Fab TCG, it's always, oh, it's so nice. This community is so open to women and gender minorities and a lot of different people that aren't just cis white men. Um, I've had a bit of a different kind of approach to this. I do feel like, yes, it is very open and we're very open to everything. And our community is great right now, but it wasn't always like
Mhm.
that. Especially when I first started, it wasn't always like that. Like Kiki. Kiki has been my friend since I started playing, damn near since I started playing. And I remember messaging Kiki and being like, "I am at this event. I feel incredibly unsafe, and I don't feel like I belong here." And that was my first big experience at a card game event. And if it wasn't for Kiki, I would not have stayed at that event. I would not have I would not be here where I am today. And I feel like we shouldn't hide that.
Mhm.
I feel like we should openly talk about the bad things that happen or the annoying things that happen in this community. I don't feel like we should just cover it over and say, oh, it's always been like
Yeah.
this, you know? So I feel like
Yeah.
sitting down and having a conversation and just being open about the things that happen in this community, good and bad, is something that should happen. So that's like my starter.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really good opener. Like this podcast Pitch Perfect is, you already said we came into the game around the same time. I think the two of us have like some of the longest running careers as women content creators in the space. And this space is like a podcast that was created like by my Melody and myself, two women, geared towards like women in the game. And that is because this podcast was created because the experience coming into the game was not the most welcoming on all aspects out the bat, and there was stark differences. So like we've had a very positive run in our content creation, and that's not to say that this episode is not going to be like a positive episode, but it is just going to be like a very honest episode about our experiences in the space, and honestly at the root of it, like why this podcast was created in the first place, and like why it exists and why we felt it was needed. Because I do love this game and I love this space, but it is difficult being a minority and a woman in this space at times, and it has like definitely been difficult. And I think we've both gone through like thoughts of even like leaving leaving the game or feeling like we don't belong, and surely other people have as well. So we're just gonna talk about it and be honest about it, and not like sugarcoat things with excessive amounts of positivity, and just be real. So
Just to like kind of touch on your
So the TLDR of that, the TLDR of that is that this is going to be a raw conversation, and we'll probably have to edit out some crying moments. So if you see any edits, it's because we started crying. That's what happened.
Yeah. We'll probably laugh, probably cry, but yeah, we're at the very bottom of it. We're gonna try and be as honest as possible. If things are edited out, it's for a reason. But
yeah, I just wanted to like touch on a point you made real quick about like how like the community as a whole, like just in general, we always talk about like how positive everything is about our community, is always welcoming and stuff. But like realistically, it's good or it's okay, but there's so much more stuff that can be done. And like like I feel like it would be wrong to just assume that everything is this kind of like safe haven of a trading card game space, but no, there's so many things that we can improve on. And like I'm hoping that this conversation that we have will kind of open that discussion up between you and your circles, as listeners, but also us. But we kind of just need to get out of this mindset that this game is perfect, because there's so much more stuff that can be done, and that's kind of what I personally hope.
Not just in like the biggest community, but also in your local communities. I feel like this is a good conversation to talk about the smallest details. And it's like, if there's a local in your community that's, being horrible, you can talk about it and you can speak up and say something, and you're not at fault, and you're not how do I say it? Am I allowed to say the B word on this?
Yeah, say
on this channel?
Want, yeah.
You're not a bitch for calling out an asshole. So that's also something I kind of want to touch on.
Yeah, no. Oh, I think that's like a really important point too, because like, we're friends, and like my locals, I love my locals, but like just as a matter of fact, they're not like the people I'm closest to who play this game. They are like the people I see the most, but they're not necessarily the people I'm closest to. So like on the local level, I think it is important that some people have that relationship with the game, where like their locals, people that they love and see constantly, might still not be the people that they're most comfortable with or like closest to on a personal level in the game. So like going to big events might is not always, this goes back to the local level as well, because how you interact with your locals is important. And I guess I'm basically trying to say, like, if I'm at a big event and like Kiki is also there, like there's more people that I feel like much closer to at a big event that I can like confide in. So like taking this down to the local level, I think is really important too.
Okay, so that's kind of covering the basis of what we're going to be talking about today. Carolina, so how has your journey been in this game? So you've kind of, like you mentioned, you've been here for, has it been 3 years? Has it been, I don't even know, I've lost track of how long, kind of.
It's been about 2.5. So it's been about 2.5. This, like to say, May will be my 3rd year in cosplaying, but I've been playing for 3 years now.
Perfect.
I've been playing for 3 years. I've been in this community for 3 years, but I've been cosplaying for about 2.5. And so that's kind of weird to think about. I don't really like to think about time frames, but whenever that anniversary comes up, or it comes up in my memories, it's just, I don't know. It's just a weird kind of, I like to say, melancholic feeling.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't, I can't really put it into words, but sometimes I'm happy about it. Sometimes I'm sad about it. Sometimes I try to think about what my life would look like if I never started cosplaying. So that's also something. It's just kind of weird. But all in all, I do love that I started. I do love where this game has taken me. I love the creative aspect of my life that I can kind of do. Like, I can be creative all year long, and that's all I really want to do, really. So I love making costumes and doing that. It's hard, I think. Going back onto like the local aspect, it's hard to kind of juggle a hobby and feeling like this is too much. Because like I make so many costumes all year that my hobby has now become my second job, even though it doesn't pay me that well. We'll talk about that later. But like it's the only thing that really like brings me absolute joy outside of my real life job. And so that's also something that's nice, that my hobby has become my real escape, but also it's become almost like a second job to me. But I enjoy it. But I don't really get to go to locals anymore. But that's also because of the way that I felt like I was ostracized from my locals.
Yeah.
That's also something that we can touch on if we want. But I never really felt like I was really accepted into my community until a few other people. I'd like to shout out Riss, my local Riss, we love. She's really gotten me back into my locals and going back into armories, and so I'm really happy about that, because for a while I never really felt like I was welcomed. So I never really felt like I was welcomed into locals, and I couldn't really feel welcomed at bigger events for a little bit this year. You know, at the start of this year, I kind of just didn't want to go to any event at all, ever again. And so that's something, but it's gotten better. My anxiety is out of the way, so I feel like I can go back to armories and bigger events without having a panic attack, which is great. Great. Love that. But yeah, I've been doing this for 3 years, and I kind of feel like I'm finding my footing and taking my mental health more to the forefront. And so I think that's great. I'm making progress in a lot of different places, so it's nice.
So you've been involved in this community, like you said, for 3 years. Obviously, a big part of that has been your content creation as your cosplaying prowess gets shown on the internet. How has this kind of affected you as a person? Has it changed your self-image or how you feel towards other people in the community? Your mental health?
Yeah, so I think it's affected me in all of the great, like the best ways, but also all of the worst ways, really. I love my community. I love the people that love my work. And those people really show their support for me. And I love getting to make a new character and making a new costume and getting the feedback. I love getting the feedback. I'm not going to say that I hate all feedback. Even constructive criticism I love. I love people telling me, hey, I love this, but I wish you would have done this differently. Like, I still love constructive criticism, don't get me wrong. And there's so many nice people that do it in the right way, but this last year, I think this is like the main takeaway from this year, is that I started getting a lot of hate from a lot of different people. And I didn't understand why. And then I realized there is no reason. There actually just is no reason. People just, the longer that you stay here, the more people hate you. You know, I think that's just the way that life goes. And I didn't understand why, and it would make me cry. Like, I would literally get on the phone with my partner, Matt, and I'd be like, why do these people hate me? Why is this happening? And he's just like, just block them. And I couldn't. I don't know why. I did not understand why I couldn't block these people at all. Like, I just didn't understand why they hated me so much, but I didn't understand why I could not bring myself to get them out of my lives. And so I think the reason was fear of it all going away. Maybe. I think the fear of blocking people that hate me would also come with the fear of everybody that likes me going away at the same time. You know, they always say, like, bad publicity, no publicity is bad publicity or something or whatever. I think I kind of misconstrued that with even if they hate you, you're still getting a number,
Yeah.
which kind of is really toxic. And there's a lot of different toxic things that happen in content creation, and like I got really competitive. I kind of felt competitive against people that I would think were my friends, but then I would get competitive if they were to get something that I didn't, and that was also really toxic, but not just on me, but just on the way that I acted. And so that was also something. And I felt like I isolated myself for a long time because of that. Uh,
Yeah.
and so that was just a lot. I felt like I lost a few friends because of it, and it wasn't just me. I feel like a lot of the time, I just lost a lot of friends this last year because things happen. It's just really stressful. Like I love the nice things that happen in content creation, but I had to really deal with the horrible things that happen in content creation this year, and I think it's given me a thick skin, but it was hard. Like that process of trying to develop that thick skin were really hard, and in the time of developing that thick skin, I developed a very toxic mindset of just being competitive all the time and no longer wanting to make friends.
Yeah.
Which is just not what this is about at all. Um, very isolated, but I'm getting better. Woohoo! So, yeah, I did a lot of talking like this past month of me just like trying to reconnect with a lot of people. Elaine and I had a bit of a falling out this year, and that was something. I don't know if we want to talk about that. We don't have to touch on that at all, but Elaine and I were not on the best terms at all this year. We kind of just reconnected very recently, and that was kind of an eye opener of maybe I shouldn't be so competitive in everything. Um, I should have fun with a lot of things, and that was a lot. I talked to a lot of people. I've reconnected with a few people, and it's really nice. It's really nice.
On a personal level, I'm really happy that you two have reconnected. I feel like I'm quite close to the both of you, and and not quite being in the middle per se, but kind of just like seeing both sides and being like, why is this happening? Um, and like, yeah, like you said, the competitive kind of side can kind of bring that out of people, or a bunch of various different explanations, really, that can cause people to fall apart. But like, realistically, like we call ourselves a community, right? Like, we're meant to be connected and be together, involved, sharing experiences with each other. So on a personal level, I'm really glad that y'all have kind of come together. Makes me happy. Now, Elaine, you've also been kind of on a similar trajectory. We kind of briefly touched on this outside of the episode. That y'all have been involved in the game for about the same amount of time. Your paths haven't really crossed. What was, or how is your journey as a Flesh and Blood content creator affecting you as well?
That is such like a loaded question.
We can edit anything out. It's okay.
I mean, so Carolina and I started playing the game around the time of Everfest released, and then my first time cosplaying was also at Pro Tour New Jersey, same as Carolina. And I kind of, when I came on the scene, that's what I was interested in cosplaying before I even started playing the game physically with cards. Like I only took interest in the game because I saw Icelander, and I wanted to like make that cosplay, and I love costuming and things like that. So I came on when I first like looked at Flesh and Blood. It was not as a game, and then when I played it for the first time around Everfest release, or shortly after, because that was when Icelander came out, I just like really fell in love with the game itself. Went to Pro Tour New Jersey and cosplayed, and I don't know. I was on a team, a local team at the time, and I just could not help but like being the only woman on that team realize how different my experience was in the game compared to my cis male counterparts. And I don't know, it was just something that I wrestled with constantly and found melody, and we wanted to speak about our experience, so I became like this type of content creator, like a podcasting content creator, rather than like the cosplayer content creator that I envisioned for myself. And of course I've done cosplay still, but it's not my main focus. And then since then, like, developed the Rainbow Pitch League with you and Melody, and that, like Carolina said, has like, the hobby has become the second job that doesn't pay.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how I feel. That is quite literally, you can relate to that also. I know you can, Kiki, because you work your ass off.
I love second jobs that don't pay me.
This is like for the
know,
love of the game, but actually, literally, that's what it is.
It's been like really interesting, and there's definitely been times when I've thought, like, can I just go back to like just being a player, and I don't even know like what that would look like for me, because when I came into the game I was kind of just a player on a team, on a local team for a while, and I still couldn't, like, you know, I went from being that to this for a reason, because of everything that I had to like face and all the different looks and comments that I was getting aside, like, different from my teammates, because of my gender and because of who I am and how I like to present myself, I guess. And so it's like made me struggle. It's definitely messed with my self-image in some ways. It's also, I don't know, I feel like the biggest, like, with content, especially this past year, I know you touched on, Carolina and I, like, had a fallout, and while we were going through that, I was just struggling with like immense amounts of guilt, because I think also the role that you and I have assigned ourselves, Kiki, as like these kind of like pillars in the community, you always kind of, people, whether we like to admit it or not, like, I think that to some capacity people do look up to us as like leaders in this space. And I only say that because people do message me and say say that, right? So like it comes with a lot of pressure to be in that role. And also, like, I had immense amount of like guilt when Carolina and I were having falling outs, because it was like that was a very personal issue between the two of us that we've worked out. But while it was happening, it was just like, I'm supposed to be this person who like is this pillar for gender minorities and women in this space, and Carolina, a content creator that like I respect so much and have so much admiration for her work and her voice in this community too. Like, we are having personal differences. And so it was like, and not just with Carolina, but in that same breath, like anytime I've had personal issues in the space, it's like come with an immense amount of guilt of being like, this isn't the role I play in this space, but this is a personal relationship, and how do I like separate the two? And it's like a weird thing to grapple with, but I think it's also like pushed me to grow a lot as a person and just sit back and have to examine like, okay, like who am I at my core, and like how can I be who I really like want to be in every aspect of my life, including like this space and my personal life and my relationships even outside of FAB. Like, yeah, not to say that like we are like you know, the person I am here is like the person I am from day to day, right? Like I don't put on a facade for the internet, but just to say like sometimes people are projecting their own image of you onto you, and to like have to grapple with like how is this person's perception of me online going to be, you know, it's like I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but it's like a weird thing to have to grapple with, like, because people do project their views. Sometimes I'll post things or say things and people will be like, this isn't you, this isn't what I thought of you, my perception of you has changed, like why would you act this way, this isn't you. And it's like weird to have other people like tell you who you fucking are, and like and then it makes you be like, wait, is this me, like what, who am I? It's a very like the constant like mind games that you go through as a content creator in this space. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, that was probably a very long tangent, but
was gonna say, like,
But like adding on to that, I also feel like as you said, people kind of message you and say, "Oh, this isn't you." I also feel like as a female content creator, you kind of get pigeonholed into one box and you can't really change anything you ever. Why are you biting me? Anything you ever make at all, without people saying, "Oh, you're only doing this for attention." You're changing this for attention. You're doing this because your views are low. You need to do this. Oh, looks like your engagement's low this month. You need to post this. Like you always get pigeonholed into a certain type of content. And if you post anything outside of that, you kind of just get like the worst comments in the world, I swear to God. But yeah, like just adding on to that tangent, I could go on an even bigger tangent on how men can change their genre or change their gradually or just automatically overnight change what type of content they make or what anything actually. Just like if you play one game and then out of nowhere you switch up and you're no longer making content for that game, you're only making content for this game, no one's going to say, oh well, you're only doing it for money and attention and clout. But if a female presenting person does that, it's the end of the world. It is the end of the world. If they even think that they want to get into something else, they're doing it for attention. Point blank, period. Like, there's nothing else. There's no other reason. It's only for attention, clout, and money.
Mm.
Like, that's the only way that they think we go. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it's true. And like being a woman in this space has really, obviously I've experienced like sexism my whole life because I am a woman, and like misogyny obviously. But I don't know, being in this space, like coming onto the scene, it was almost like a whole different level, and I started to realize like microaggressions, like just, and also just like straight up aggression, that people present to you. It just makes me, I don't know, it made me acutely aware of these aspects in my life, both in FAB and outside of FAB. And you're exactly right. Like anytime I want to like try to expand like into a new thing, or I post something that's outside of FAB on like my socials, it's like people just kind of take it in a weird way, and it's a weird thing to be like, oh, I'm a content creator in Flesh and Blood, and obviously like my Blue Sky, my Twitter, I did make when I started playing Flesh and Blood, but it took me like a very long time to be comfortable posting other interests on those accounts that aren't just Flesh and Blood, because my following quickly became like Flesh and Blood, and exactly for the reasons that you're saying. So
yeah, like obviously my experiences to y'all's will be a bit different, but it's like definitely visible even from like the outside looking in, just like how much hate is targeted towards like women and gender minorities in our community, which is kind of impressive in the sense that, like I mentioned earlier on, that this is arguably one of the better communities in the trading card game space. Like, I remember when we first started running the the Rainbow Pitch League, when we announced it, like, the sheer amount of people just like, is this kind of space needed? Like, why do we have an event only for women? And, like, I would say and gender minorities in this case, but, like, let's be honest, the people that are hating on us don't acknowledge that side of things. But they'd be like, why do we need the space? Why can't I enter? Why do y'all get these extra events? So on and so forth. We're doing the work. Like, we're making, if you want to make a men's only event, like, that's, you're trash. You don't need to. You don't need an extra space for yourself. You have most of them already. But B, like,
most.
This space is happening because, like, we're trying to make things better for the people, make things more comfortable for each other. And yeah, you could just kind of see like the immediate response from some people were to just like, there's that whole thing, like, if you don't like something,
immediately bad.
If you don't like something, you can ignore it and move on with your day. It doesn't have to affect you. It's like, why are you going out of your way to kind of actively antagonize these people that have less opportunities than you in the first place? So like, I can see like it being just very frustrating to have to deal with that on such like that's arguably like a bigger in your face kind of thing, right? And like you also see like smaller microaggressions and stuff everywhere. Like you said, just like even in terms of your social media posts, like something that like I'd kind of noticed for a while is that Carolina's like Twitter account many years ago or social media account was a lot more varied than it was say a year ago when like because of like all these criticisms that she would face on social media. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I can't say the C word anymore. What happened about
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but seriously.
Yeah. But like, I'm not wrong in saying that. I think
No,
we
but
had a conversation a while ago about how like you don't feel comfortable about posting the same stuff you used to, maybe, or just because of like.
yeah, I mean, I just don't really. I used to post like every day, just like whenever I had a thought, I'd
Mhm.
post it. But I think as time went on and as worse everything got on there, I kind of just I stopped posting most of my costumes that I would compete with. I stopped posting just like anything I thought. I really just only posted whenever I felt like I had to. I still kind of do. It's getting a little bit better, but it's not really getting that. It's not getting to the point where I used to just like post whatever I wanted, not think about any consequences, just do it because it was funny. Which I wish I could say the C word again. I really wish I could. But yeah, no. And also I don't feel like I complain a lot now.
Mhm.
Not something that's like a new thing with me is that I complain a
You
lot.
voice your opinion.
But I don't think it's me complaining. I voice my opinion, exactly. And this rotted man yesterday said in his little Ethernet, his little account, that I should just be happy with what I have and not be mad that other people are getting these things when they're rotted transphobic pieces of garbage. But that I should just stay in my lane and be happy with what LSS is giving me and not focus on other people being rotted garbage. And to that I say, shut up, you rotted old man. I hate you. And I could tell you other things, but you know what? I'm not gonna get this YouTube account taken down. So, catch me at an event. Also, that man is so nice to me at events. The last time he saw me, he like tried to say hi to me, and I literally like looked at him with the most disgusted face in the world. I almost fought that man. Anyways,
That's like such an audacity moment to tell somebody that like, hey, you know what? Your thoughts about wanting better for like people around you? Nah. That's like, it's just the audacity to say that to someone.
literally, it was literally like you should just be happy with what you're given and shut up. Why? Why should I be happy with what I'm given and shut up? I don't like you, and nobody else should like you either.
It's
Sorry.
like it's so ridiculous and honestly like so triggering. Like I in this podcast have been very fortunate for a long time to get like spoilers for seasons and things from LSS, and that's great. And you know we are very appreciative for LSS for giving us that. And if it gets taken away or we don't get one like last season, like that's fine too. But I don't want to like my spot to be taken away to go promote someone who is like just not good for the community. If it goes to like if it goes to you, if I don't get a spoiler,
I don't want it
my
to,
spoiler spot
you
goes
don't
to
want
you.
your stuff to go away to promote a grifter. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's like I don't mind. Like if I don't mind not getting a spoiler if my spoiler spot goes, or I say the spoiler spot that I have been given like goes to like another creator.
Like Erica, for example, who got her first one in the upcoming season.
Exactly. I saw that Mercy got one also. Yeah. Like that's fantastic, and I would never like complain about not getting one. Seeing other creators that are in the same like also gender minorities getting one, I think that so that's just really stupid. Be like, well, you should be grateful for what you're getting. It's like I'm not really concerned. I'm concerned with myself, but I'm also like concerned to make sure that like the people that deserve to have their voices heard are having their voices heard. And I also just like,
Exactly.
while we're talking about like having to be judged on the thing we're posting, like I just say like it's so fucking exhausting to constantly have to be thinking about these things and like aware of these things. And like I've kind of like, you know, I've been back in school for a while, and so I've fallen off of like content creation. Not really. I say that I have, but I'm still putting up a leak and an episode every single week. So I don't know. Like, see, this is another thing that, like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm so lazy. But that's not true.
That's so
I'm
not
working 24/7. I really never stop. But, like, I open like Twitter or Blue Sky now like once a day. But there's always just like a sense of like, I don't know, like guilt that's like, oh, I need
Looming
to be like
doom.
yeah, it's like I looming doom, exactly. It's like, well, I'm not replying to people fast enough. They're gonna be mad at me because they have gotten mad at me for things like this before, because people will be like, well, they'll, like in person, people say like, oh, I responded, you never responded back to me, or like, you know, so I thought you weren't as nice of a person as maybe you seemed. I'm like, it's like exhausting to constantly have these expectations pushed on you.
You don't have, yeah.
It's like,
It's also like, listen, I have ADHD. Sometimes I forget to respond. I have 40 Instagram DMs. I don't know where to start. I really don't know where to start. I'm so sorry. I love you. You're my friend.
Much.
You know, you're great. I cannot open your Instagram DM. Love you so much. I'll send you a reel without opening the Instagram DM.
It's like a vicious cycle, because I'll get in the cycle of being like, I'm feeling guilty for not being on like social media, but I also can't open this app and like deal with the weight of what comes in my mind when I'm like in like this content creator, you know, like just interacting with people on social media, where it's like, oh, I'm constantly to reply to this person. There's like this weight of like, okay, are they gonna think I'm being mean if I say this, or like what if they don't think I'm joking? That's another thing. Like I feel like it's harder to joke. Like I can't just like make a joke without people taking it seriously, and because people have.
Yeah.
And so it's like the weight of everything that comes with just like putting out a tweet is so much that I'm like, I'm just not gonna open the app, and then I feel like guilty for not opening the app. Content creating is not easy.
No, it's not. And I feel like I've kind of like, if we're talking about like content switches, this is not content. This is just the way that I've kind of interacted with my socials, is where I would post funny things, and now I'm kind of posting more serious, hey, like this is the problem that I've silently been dealing with. I'm being more raw. And I remember posting something, it was about when the whole kind of like, are females deserving of spoilers just because they're female kind of rhetoric was going around. I wasn't paying attention to it all that much, but I kind of got a little bit real, because I kept seeing people bring my name up, and they're like, well, Carolina's a cosplayer and a content creator, why didn't she get one? And their only argument was, she is not a creator, she's a cosplayer, she's not a content creator, she's a cosplayer, she doesn't make content, she doesn't have a YouTube channel, she doesn't make content. And so I got really upset about that, and I went on a little tangent. I was like, this really sucks to know that none of you take me seriously. It really sucks to know that none of you take me seriously. And they took that as if I was, they took my words, and they spun it around as me complaining that I wasn't getting a spoiler. And that wasn't what I was saying. Like, you took all of my words of me saying, I hate that none of you take me seriously because you think that cosplay is not actual content creation, and took that as me complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm saying your words hurt me. That's not me complaining that I didn't get any recognition, you know? Like, who cares about that? I'm being honest, and you just don't take it seriously. And this is proof that you don't take me seriously.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that
Yeah.
sort of rhetoric a lot. Like, not even just then, but like specifically with the content creation. I don't know if I'm more aware of it because you're my main source of cosplay kind of news, I guess. Like, you know. But yeah, we've definitely kind of seen that a lot where it feels like they don't take I guess in a weird way like social media as like a form of content, but like you're with your posts, with your costumes and stuff, you're actively providing them a way to interact with the game. It's just not on YouTube, but you know, they're still interacting with the characters they love almost, or they're experiencing the game through the form of what was then your Twitter posts of your cosplays and stuff, and for that to not be acknowledged as content is kind of trash. And then, like, I feel like a lot of it is just literally just hate being aimed at you because you're you, as opposed to, like, you know.
It's really just me. It's not even like, because if it was anybody else, it really is just a personal vendetta against me and me speaking against their favorite creator. I think that's the whole thing. Yeah, I've been really vocal and open about men in this space that are actually just rotted human flesh. And I think that makes a lot of their fans mad, surprisingly so. You know, isn't that crazy? You know, fork found in kitchen. But it really is just a personal vendetta, and water off a duck's back now. But when it first started happening, I was like, oh, they all hate me because it's me, which is true. They all hate you because it's you, but because you said something about their favorite creator, and now their favorite creator is gone. That's why they hate me. And I'm like, you know what? Cheers to that, buddy. I'm so sorry you have nothing to do on a Saturday night.
They can make content.
Never cry. Make content.
Oh, like, do you think there's like kind of like obviously you're calling out people and it's having some sort of effect on them? Like, we can look back at the very recent the recent post you made about blogging as a concept you can do on Blue Sky and how effective it is. Do you think this kind of hate comes because you are so outspoken as well? Like, because you put yourself out there in a way that, like, means that they can kind of hit back at you. And, like, realistically, a lot of these people are going to be lesser known, so they're going to face fewer repercussions for it. Like,
I think they think I'm not going to call them out too and tell them to, like, you know, get Ben. I think they think that I'm a lot weaker than I really am, and so they feel like they can say whatever they want, when in reality I could tell them to get bent and not care, you know? They're like, well, you're saying this because you're annoying, and I'm gonna try to one-up you because you dumb woman, me strong male. When in reality, you're fucking stupid, and you're alone, and I'm me. Like, I don't know what you want from me, you know? They feel like they have power over me because they feel personally like they are stronger than any female on the planet because of them, because of their genetic, what is their thing? They're like, oh, we're genetically stronger than you. That's their whole thing.
just real quick, that's a really weird argument to have in a game where we're literally playing with cards. But
no, literally, but it's like, it's their mindset. It's their mindset. So, like, they don't care.
Did you?
I would just like to say, like, we're talking about this and drawing conclusions and stuff, and people might listen and be like, well, that's, you know, whatever. But this is, like, what we're talking about is, like, real stuff. Like, people attack you for speaking out on content creators and stuff, but also just, like, there are men in this space who do treat us like, oh, we are, like, just genetically better. Like, think in this way. And
dumb broads,
it's like,
is what
I say. We're not just saying that. Like, I'm not. When I have sat down at a pro quest and played a game of Flesh and Blood and won the game of Flesh and Blood, and then had the man sitting across from me after I won say, "You only won because I couldn't stop staring at your tits," and like, excuse you, and I've been separate occasion been told like, okay, you only won because like I was distracted by how hot you look, and you only dress this way to distract me, when in reality I know you're just a brain dead girl. Like, literally been called like a brain dead girl and be like, you can't play this game, you only won because I am just too distracted. It's just like,
The audacity.
the audacity of like, these are things that like we actually get told and go through, so we're not just drawing these conclusions out of thin air. Like, there are men in these spaces who do treat us like this, and it's
literally
ridiculous.
I remember when the main catalyst of me feeling like I was not wanted in these spaces, because the person that I was dating when I first got into this game was a major misogynist. Like, that was the main thing. I would dress nice. I used to dress beautifully, but like, I used to dress cool. And
you're wearing a Cerberus Games hoodie right now. You still dress cool. Stunned.
Like, literally, I'm wearing a Cerberus Games hoodie. But I used to dress like a lot cooler than I do now, and I remember saying, why am I being treated like this? Like, why am I being treated like a piece of meat? Why are these people like being so mean to me? Why are they saying weird things directly across from me? And they're like, well, he literally was like, it's because of what you're wearing. Like, you are attracting attention to yourself because of what you're wearing. And I'm like, interesting. And I believed him. And so I just like started dressing down, and I still have not gotten back up to like the confidence of wanting to dress nicely at events. And so like, I remember like it getting so bad, I would dress down. I started wearing flip-flops and sweatpants to events because I like did not want my body to show in any way, shape, or form. I just like was covering up because I was so scared, and it kept happening. So like nothing was helping. But like, I let that little worm in my head tell me that the reason why this is happening is because you are dressing too provocatively. No. It's just the mind. Like, it does not matter if you are dressing provocatively, or any way, shape, or form, like in sweatpants, a sweatshirt, and ugly ass flip-flops. Like, they're going to say weird stuff. Yeah. They're going to do it.
Yeah. And I feel very fortunate that like I got in this game. I was dating a guy too when I started, and that is how I got on the local team that I was on and everything. But I feel like very lucky that like when I was getting these comments made to me, like I wasn't just, they weren't being validated by the men that I was surrounding myself with in my personal life. And I can't imagine like having gone through that experience too. I think I would have had the same reaction that you have, and still to this day, when I like plan my outfits for like events, I'm like, oh, like, is this like, should I dress like maybe more modestly? And then I'm like, this is something that I have in my closet that I wear every day, like, because this is my style. So no, this is what I wear because this is how I feel good. And I'm very like lucky that wasn't like reinforced. And so yeah, I'm so sorry you went through that. And also, like, I could scream. I won't, because that'll be very loud in the mic. But yeah.
Different kind of note altogether. We've kind of talked about how being in this space as a content creator, as a player, as a person who literally enjoys Flesh and Blood, and happens to also be a woman, has changed your perception of yourself and so on and so forth. Let's kind of go and project onto the future. Like, how do we see the culture around women in the space can change? Is there any sort of experiences that you've lived as a creator in the space that you don't want others to go through? I mean, we've kind of touched that already. But also, as an aside, like, is there any experiences you've gone through that you think you can apply to the future to change things for the better? Let's just open it up. Let's not direct this at anyone. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Me. Yeah, so obviously there's lots of things that I've gone through in this space that I would like not want another woman to go through. And I feel like a lot of it I feel like I've kind of made that my whole mission in Flesh and Blood, quite honestly. Is like being a person who tries to be like outspoken and also like provide safe spaces for gender minorities, because it's something that I didn't necessarily have when I came into the space, and something that I think would have been like really helpful to have. So I think like that's important. I think that I don't know. I feel like everything that comes to mind is like stuff that I just feel like I've been preaching for like 2.5 years, and there have been like improvements, but in some ways, sometimes it feels like I'm just screaming into a void forever and ever. And like you mentioned it a little bit, Kiki, when you said like, you know, like what we're doing with the league and stuff is not really like revolutionary, and like how the people are always like, oh, Flesh and Blood is such like a great space and an inclusive space. And I know that we've had private conversations about it where it feels like this should just kind of be like bottom, like bare minimum. The bar is low, and so it's a struggle to feel like everything that you're doing in the space is so great and stuff, and it's like this should just kind of be like the standard in the space. Like the space has so much to grow, and I know that because of the experiences that I've lived, and like I'm trying to help grow the space, but really until other people start talking out about it, and like just also being, I think the difficult part is making other people like aware of the even just acute like misogyny that we're more aware of, because sometimes it's like, especially as a young creator in this space, not even like before I was a creator in this space, like when people make comments to you or have these microaggressions towards you, it's very difficult to say something for yourself. And still, even I feel very protected by like the podcast and the league, where it feels like I don't have as many of these experiences as I used to have, and then I have to sit back and reflect, like, do I have these experiences? Do I have less of these experiences now because like we're actually having an impact on the space? Is it because I'm more aware of like the people I'm surrounding myself with in the space, or is it because I am in a way like very like privileged and protected? Because if anyone did like, if this happened, like if I would have been at like Worlds Osaka and someone like made a comment about how they couldn't focus during our game because they were staring at my tits, like I cannot even imagine the like, I would have told you that everyone, it just would not have been stood for in the way that I was just trying to go about my life and not cause any commotions at an event when I was a smaller creator. I've learned to stand up for myself in a lot of ways, and so then I think I'm constantly worried and thinking about, are there women in this room who are like going through these experiences and just don't have the people to confide in about it, or the like voice to stand up for themselves about it? Or and so it's like something that I'm constantly aware of when I'm at events, and I think the majority of the people in the room are not aware of it at all, not even aware that it's a possibility. And I think that is like, and not even like trained in a way to like notice microaggressions and notice things when things are happening around them. And so I think that's the hardest part, is that this is a male dominated space, and possibly always will be. And so it's hard to make them relate and be trained in a way the same way that we are to notice when things are off, and how to help, because it's not even always, I don't know. That's a long rant.
That's kind of what this episode's about. That's okay. Do you think part of it is like they won't do it to you per se in this case because you have this platform? Is that what you meant by you have this protection of the league and like the podcast? Like they kind of know if they were to make a aggression towards you or whatever, that they would have all the supporters of these two kind of sources come down at them. Is that what you mean by sort of protection?
Like, you know,
or like they know that you have a platform
like
to speak out?
Like, I guess sometimes in a way, sometimes maybe that's what I mean by it, but I also don't really think of our followers as an army that I can rally. That's not like my right. That's not like my perception, if that's how it came off. But I just mean, like, also I am someone I've found my voice in this space, and I feel very like comfortable and confident in that voice. And the podcast and league have given that to me. And if I were at an event and like something happened, if someone made that comment, like, not only would I feel comfortable calling them out about it, but I would also feel comfortable enough to go to you and be like, we should talk to the head judge, you know? And that is something that these platforms have given me the knowledge and the confidence to do, and not something that I would have been able to do when I first came into the space, and before. I felt like I think a large part of it is having these spaces has opened my eyes to a lot of the fact that this is just a misogynistic problem that I'm not going through as an individual, but that a lot of gender minorities go through in the space. And so I feel more comfortable, like, seeing that other people have the same, if not similar if not the same experiences as me, has made me be like, okay, I have to talk out about this, because I cannot accept these things as part of this community in the way that I was maybe accepting them for myself before I felt like comfortable. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Elaine said everything that I could have said. Period.
Okay. Yeah, no, that was very well put, very eloquent. And you said it was around, but realistically, there's just a lot to go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. There's like the question in here that's like, how do you see your future in FAB? And like, I don't know. That's a weird question, like, to think about. I know, like Carolina had said in the beginning of this, like, every time the 3 years pops up, or like the memory pops up of like, oh, that's when I started playing Flesh and Blood. It's like, sometimes it's really happy and sometimes it's like really joyous, and look back at your life and think, like, what would my life look like if I never started playing Flesh and Blood? And life is so weird. This one decision changed the whole trajectory of my life. This game really did change my life and change me as a person, and like in the best ways, but also it came with a lot of just like
hardships.
Lot of shit. Yeah, a lot of hardships. And like I said, this game made me experience experiencing misogyny in this space is different than just experiencing it in everyday world in the way that you do as a woman, because when I'm out as, I don't know, you experience it. I've experienced it. Ooh, sorry, my cat. Oh my god, I dropped it.
That's Carolina's influence. Like, Carolina's throwing her cats around, and up until like today, it's always just like, cuddle, cuddle, cuddle. There's a yeet.
Yeah, like, threw him behind me. Anyway, oh my god.
Mine are annoying. They are literally annoying. They deserve it.
Okay, it's different in the way that here, yes, there are there's like tons of misogynists that are like public figures in everyday life that have supporters that if you get in their space, they will attack you. However, it's like different in Flesh and Blood, I feel, because it's this is a space that I consider like my space, and there are still misogynists attacking me in a space that like I consider Flesh and Blood is like my space. I am part of this community, and it's weird to be like, I'm part of this community and I want to be here, and then have constantly people being like, I don't want you here, get out. And it's a weird to feel like you're having to like constantly elbow your way and being like, no, I want to be in this space, so I'm going to be in this space, get away from me. And it's weird to be having done
because they're literally always like, just get used to it or get out. That's their whole argument is, oh, man mean to you? Well, get used to it, get out. You're in a male-dominated space. I'm like, girl, fuck you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So like the question, how do you see your future in FAB? I plan to be here forever and ever and ever because I genuinely do love this game and love doing this podcast and love running the league and love the friends I've made and love going to events. These are things that I all love, but I would be lying if I said the past 3 years hasn't felt like in some capacity that I've constantly been like having to like push elbows and be like, no, I'm making my space here in a way that I don't think that men have felt like they have to do. I can't. Yeah. It's different to be like, oh, this is my, just come into a space and be welcomed, aside from like constantly feeling like I'm having to make and draw a circle around myself and be like, see, look, I have space in this community, and then constantly having people come rub dirt over it and like having to redraw the line in the sand. Like, no, stop. I do have a space in this community. It's weird.
And it's kind of interesting as well, like the fact that our roles as like all of our roles really as trying to make the space more welcoming and stuff, it's so much different to what y'all would have had to experience coming into it. Like, you know, as y'all came into it, the community didn't have this sort of support system, didn't have these sort of initiatives going on, and yeah, it's kind of weird to still be kind of fighting against that nowadays. In some ways things have regressed, in some ways things have gotten better, and it's this constant change. It's like you said, it's hard to predict how things are going to actually look in the future, because like, yeah, I think we're making progress. I think we're doing things with all of our initiatives, putting people out there. We're seeing more women come into the content creator space. We've seen that over the last couple of years with more and more YouTubers, cosplayers, writers. That's a pretty big one that gets skipped out. Just a brief tangent. There's a lot of people that write as content in Flesh and Blood, and they don't get the recognition that they deserve. But yeah, we see more and more people.
And we're getting an influx of female casters. That's also something I kind of want to shout out. We're getting a lot more female casters, and that's something that I'm really happy about, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes. Really I feel like I've been talking about this since I got into this space. And where the heck, why, if I turn on the TV, I want to see, you know, I understand that the majority of these players are male players, so most of the time on the stream I'm seeing male players, but why can't I see, why I shouldn't watch a full day of Flesh and Blood sitting at home on my stream
and not see one representing person.
See one representing person. Yeah, exactly. So if it has to be in the casting booth, or it should be in the casting booth, like,
yeah, and the casting booth is pretty important. Like, you know, they don't need to necessarily draw onto the fact that they're a woman, but like, it's representation, right? Like, it shows that the game is more open to, like, or to showcasing its diversity, and as a result makes it more welcoming as a result. So like, for sure, 100%, like, super happy for like the Ericas and the Ellies of the world. I'm sure there are probably more around the world at other events that I just haven't paid attention to, because honestly, I don't have time, unfortunately. But the growth is there. Like, we are seeing that as a community. But it's just, yeah, hard to predict exactly how this will all shape out. Ideally, positively. Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how the future grows. I'm really excited to see a lot more femme presenting people start playing the game and get into it, and they don't really have to deal with the hardships that Elaine and I had to deal with at the start in like 2021. And yeah, it's gonna get better, and it's already better, and so I'm really happy to see where we go. As for me, like, how I see myself, where I see myself going, I don't know, because I live, especially in this space, and where I see myself as a content creator and as a cosplayer in the FAB TCG space, I live it day by day.
Yeah.
So I can't say, in the next 3 years, what are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know what I'm having for lunch tomorrow. I don't know what I'm having for dinner tonight. Girl, I might have sleep for dinner. Like, it just depends, you know? So I'm excited to see where everything takes us and where everything takes me, and hopefully Elaine and I don't have to work out in the remix a second time. That's also something. But yeah.
So, we've kind of talked about this in previous episodes with Mercy, who was our finalist from the 2024 Worlds, and also our initial Rainbow Pitch the champion. So she was talking about how the space is quite inviting. You know, we do a great job of kind of bringing people in, but that not being enough, like, we kind of need more room for growth. I believe the phrase, or the idea she talked about, was getting your foot in the door is great, but, you know, you still kind of get put to the side, I guess. So do we have any sort of ideas for how people in Flesh and Blood, both in and out of the game space community, can make the space more, not just more inviting, but also allow for the sort of growth that we can see in the game? An example of that might be like the Ellies and the Ericas of the world being offered kind of, forgot my words, commentary positions, you know, so we kind of see them showcased, or even spoilers for a bunch of our minority members, or yeah, I've lost my words, but yeah, how can we grow the space?
Oh, good. Yeah, I got you. I think, like, on a community level, I don't know, I feel like there's other ways that the league is maybe not fulfilling the space than it could be. Like, people coming to us with those ideas, or like starting those ideas on their own, could be something really awesome. I think there's also, like I've said, and I think I mentioned it with Mercy as well, and Mercy had mentioned, like, when someone, it can be as little as, like, when you're talking with a friend and someone comes up and there's a new person added to the group, just actually making sure everyone has a proper introduction does a lot more than you think. And I've said it before too, as I don't like introducing people as, oh, this is so-and-so's girlfriend or boyfriend, or so-and-so's friend or my friend. Just giving people a name can do so much to make someone feel like they actually belong in this space and have a role to be themselves in this space. So I think things as little as that are important to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Going back to, like, my first ever big event, it was really intimidating. And I don't want to say I was scared, but I mean, I was really, like, I'd like to say just, yeah, no, I was scared. I was just scared to be in that space. I didn't know how it was going to be, and I really wish, like, a lot of things happened at that event that caused me to have such a bad look on the industry as a whole, and the TCG place, as the TCG community as a whole. And looking back, I wish there was somebody there that I could go to that wasn't, like, a TO or anything. I know that you can go up to the TO, but that's really intimidating, especially because you don't know how that's really gonna snowball. It's a really big snowball effect if you go directly to the biggest person. I feel like there should be kind of like a representative there, like a safe space representative that I can go to if I feel unsafe or something's happening, or I kind of just need a breather. I really wish that there was just a place to breathe in these situations, especially for a newcomer. And this isn't for just female presenting people. This is kind of just for newcomers as a whole. I feel like there should always be a safe space representative, or just somebody that I feel like I can go to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I feel like I can go to talk to. I feel like that would be a great addition to these larger events, especially for a new player, or just a female presenting person that does not feel safe, that needs advice, that needs to figure out what's happening. Like, I have a thick skin, and I felt like I was ostracized. I have a very thick skin. Not everybody has what I have. And I feel like if I felt unsafe, then other people feel worse. And I see a lot of female presenting people come in, and it's their first event, their first big event. It's like they're coming to nationals with their partner, or they're playing by themselves, but they're, femme presenting people. And I can tell that in their eyes, they feel uncomfortable. They are really uncomfortable to be there. They don't feel like they are welcomed. And there needs to be a bit of change at events to show that they are welcomed. It's very broy right now. It's very broy. And I'm fine with it because I'm used to it now. But I'm not going to be... There's this thing called like malicious compliance where, oh, I'm fine with it, so it's all fine. I'm not... No, I'm fine with it because I have to be. But it doesn't have to be this way, you know?
Like a big part of what you just said there.
Yeah.
So
was
I feel
you're
like
fine with it because you've been through it.
I have to be. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like everybody should be through it. I don't think anybody should go through with what I went through. I don't think it's oh, well, that's how it is, and if you don't like it, then you don't deserve to be anywhere in this space. No. They need to fix it. And you're right. You did go through it, but it shouldn't happen to everybody else just because you went through it.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of events and even smaller, like, I know that it's a lot harder for like smaller things, but I mean, at least at tier 4 events, there should be some sort of safety that doesn't involve a TO to snowball effect it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I would say that my very first like big event was Pro Tour New Jersey, right, which was also like the first like big event, I guess. But I went there alone by myself. I did, you know, I was dating a guy at the time we played the game, but for other reasons outside of the game, he couldn't go, and so I still wanted to go, and I went alone, and that was like a very big step, just like on a personal level. That was like a very big thing for me to do, was go on a trip alone, which is scary, I think, for any reason, but also it's just scary. It was scary to go and be like, okay, I'm entering this space, this male-dominated space, and I'm going alone, and I'll just have to watch out for myself and take care of myself, which I know that is something you have to do every day anyway. But it's scary to be like in these situations alone and not have like resources like that available to you, and even on just like the smallest level of being. When I was going to events alone and I started my period in the middle of a calling, and it's, well, I don't have anything and I don't know anyone here who has anything, and I have to figure out how to handle this situation with no help by myself. And sometimes these things are just scary, and to know you're in a room of people who just cannot really relate to you and can't like help you is kind of intimidating.
Horrible.
Yeah,
horrible.
really almost traumatic in a way, I would say. And yeah, so I think things like that would help. And I also would just say that when we started talking about the league and ideas for the league and what our vision for it was, for me, having experienced these things multiple times, that was a very big part of wanting to start this league, was just to connect gender minorities around the globe, so that if you're at a big event, you don't have to feel so alone. You don't have to feel like there's no one there who might not relate to what you're going through. And so I think something like that, yeah, definitely would be helpful.
I feel like it would be a lot of help, and I don't even think it's just like it's not just for female presenting people. It heavily helps us, but it's for everybody, especially new people that aren't comfortable in social spaces, neurodivergent people that are kind of just really, really overwhelmed, or it helps a lot of people. It helps disabled people. It helps people. And I feel like you don't need to there shouldn't just be a TO or judges. Like, I found it very hard to even call a judge during matches when I first started. I'm not going to go to a judge. But if there's a designated person there, like, I had so many people cheat. I had so many people cheat against me. And I'm just like,
me too.
That doesn't make sense.
Oh, well.
I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Oh, well. I look up at the judge. Okay. But, like, yeah, like, I'm not going to go to a judge if I feel unsafe. But if there's somebody there that is there, that is their job to make me feel safe, then
Yeah.
I'm going to go to that person.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
you know.
it makes you feel like the company and the community has your back and is telling you, oh yeah, you belong here and we're here to help.
You're welcome.
And make
Yeah, like, you're welcome
you're
here.
comfortable. Yeah, exactly.
As like a TO as part of my literal day job, I've kind of seen it come up a lot, right? And like the events for the most part that I run are significantly smaller than some sort of tier 4 event, right? Like I run like a small store where you can have like 40 people or whatever, and like even then you can kind of still see when somebody's feeling uncomfortable, and like a lot of the time they won't want to approach you, and like I like to think that I have a bit more of like empathetic awareness, I don't know what to call it, but I can kind of see that in a lot of people, so I'll end up kind of just like going off to the side and being like, hey, do you need a moment, do you want a space, like I can give you the storeroom, which really isn't the best place, but it's away from this, if you need to breathe or whatever, like just let me know. But I can tell that a lot of these people are kind of apprehensive because I'm also in this role of TO and I've been here forever. I'm ancient. But you know, like it is intimidating and I can kind of see that, but also, like I said, like I think I'm probably more aware than a lot of people in the position might be, and they might not notice that these people are kind of suffering in silence, for lack of another term, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, like if there
Yeah.
was somebody who you know is there purely to make sure that your time isn't going to be anxiety riddled or filled with dread, or hell, even just is there and able to talk to you if you're struggling to communicate with others in the room, I could definitely see a large benefit towards that.
I definitely think so. I think another aspect to be aware of, and another reason why this might be needed, is because you're talking about TL on like a local position, and I know we kind of had talked throughout the podcast about how like the different stages that Flesh and Blood takes place on, it's important to implement these things on all stages. And although obviously you can't like implement a safe space like representative of sorts at very small events, like it's needed on such large events because you don't know what kind of local scene people are coming from. And I've been to countless protests where I've walked into the store and the TO has given every male that in my group that I walked in with a deck list and skipped over me, and I've had to have been like, hi, I'm also here to play the event, not here to watch, here to play. And so even just these one time I went to a store that didn't have a women's bathroom, just 2 men's bathrooms, what it was labeled. And
if
it's
you
like
have 2 bathrooms, why would you label them? Like if
you know, the women's, there was like a women's bathroom, but it was in like a different building that I had to go to. Anyway, so it's just like you don't know what kind of things people are facing on the local level that might translate to how comfortable they are going to a TO at a large event. So like I think it's really.
Wait, why would you label the bathrooms in the first place? I'm so confused.
I don't. You know,
if you are this store that has 2 men's bathrooms and no women's bathrooms, just remove the labels. That's all you need to do.
Just take them off.
And maybe make sure you clean them a bit more.
No, they don't. They say no girl allowed in my toilet. No girl allowed in my toilet.
No girl in any of the toilets. Just
no girl allowed
2
to pee. Girl don't pee. Girl don't poop.
Don't be the store.
Girl don't pee. Girl don't poop.
But anyway, yeah. Your experiences going to different stores and different play areas.
So like you don't know what these what kind of TO this person might be facing on a local level, and so to go to a big event, it might be really nice to be like, oh, I have someone that I can talk to here, because I'm not going to talk to the TO because these are the experiences I'm going through on a local level, so I'm definitely not going to do that at a big event. So
that's a great point. Great point.
Yeah. Period.
Okay. Well, that being said, I believe that's everything that we've had on our list to discuss. It's been what I think is a fruitful episode. It's been fantastic to talk to you. Do you all have any sort of closing thoughts that we kind of want to get into? Caroline is already posing.
Go watch T and TCG. That's what I've been watching for the last few days.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's wonderful.
Yes.
You can watch it. I love comfort
Yeah.
content, so it's really good. Also, opened a Marvel IRA yesterday. I'm so up. This is my luckiest day in the world.
You've been watching great FAB content. You've got a Marvel IRA. You're here hanging out with us. Like, how could it get any better? No, I'm kidding.
A man to give me $3 million.
I have about 18 in my account. Not million, just 18.
No,
Also, once conversion rate, it's like $16
$18.
in your money.
18. Once conversion.
$14. $14 USD.
Sorry, I didn't mean to, like, stick my age.
But yeah, okay. Well, on that note, it was great to have you, Carolina. Honestly, a joy, a pleasure, super informative. I hope. Well, I know I personally got a lot out of this. I assume Elaine's gotten a lot out of this. I hope all of our viewers have gotten a lot out of this. So let's quickly wrap this up in the usual podcast sort of way. How can we find you? What socials would you like us to find you on?
You can find me on Twitter at Bitchy Velour, Blue Sky, bitchyvelour. That really long domain name.
bsky.social.
That domain name. Gonna switch that over. Bsky, yes, bitchyvelour.bsky.social, but I'm changing that over. I think it might be carolinaalvarado.net soon, which is really funny. Yeah.
Really official.
No, I know it's really stupid, but that's a funny story actually. When my boyfriend and I first got into a relationship, he bought that domain 2 years ago. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this just in case something happens. So now I get to use it.
He had faith in you.
Because he already bought it 2 years ago.
He knew that you were destined for great things.
I don't know why he bought it.
Just in case.
He's like if you ever want to make a website, here's this domain name. I'm like, why is it .net? That's lame. And I guess I have to use the .net because I don't want to buy it.
How many is it a really fought over domain name?
No, he just bought it.
It's just just in case
he just buys things. That's like what he likes to do.
That comes up on the
CarolinaAlvarado.net.
2 years, just in case.
Well, it's kind of just like, if you become big or famous, whatever, then people try to take your stuff.
Why
right?
not .org?
It's like the the demure and mindful kind of thing, like how somebody else trademarked it after she got big with it before she was able to. It's kind of like that, we're just pre-predicting Carolina's rise to stardom.
Yeah.
Pre-predicting? We are just are predicting.
My rise.
But yeah.
Yeah, you were just predicting. You can also find me on Instagram, Carolina2Alva. That's not a lot of fab content. That's just kind of like my daily life. I post on my stories a lot. Just annoying. I'm just annoying on there. So you can find me on there if you want to know more about my life instead of my personal life. Then you want to know my little girly pop life. You can go on Instagram. But yeah, everything else, you can know where to find me. I'm always at events.
Amazing. Fantastic. You can find me, of course, on Blue Sky at kikibird.bsky.social. You can still find me on Twitter on occasion at kiki_LA93. And Elaine.
I am eHamontree on everything, on Blue Sky and on Twitter. eHamontree, like eBacon on Bush, pork on shrubbery. I'm not really on Twitter anymore. On really Blue Sky, but that's just because I'm in the middle of finals. And I'm not really on Twitter at all unless you tag me in something. So yeah.
So thank you very much, Carolina, for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you once again. And yeah, we will hopefully see you all on the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.